Hello everyone. So in this video we are going to be writing a program on threads and multi-threaded programming. So first of all, let's just go ahead and create a new thread. So that's just thread t equals I'm going to create an object of a class which inherits the thread class, but I'm not going to give the class a name. So I'm going to use anonymous classes here, and I've talked about anonymous classes in a previous video. If you haven't watched that, make sure to watch it. So let's just create the anonymous class right here, and I just need to inherit one method. I just need to implement one method, that's the public void run, and inside that I can write something like system.out.println, let's say 1, and let me just copy this and paste it a couple of times and let this print 2 and then 3. So let's just do this much for now and try compiling our program. So java c thread program dot java, and let's just go ahead and compile it. Java thread program, and as you can see, nothing got printed, nothing really happened. And the reason is we have created this thread, but we never started this thread. So the way we do that is we do t.start, and once we do that, let's actually just have a system.out.println here, which says starting thread, and let's just compile it now. And if we run this, now it says starting thread, then 1, 2 and 3. And so what's going on here is when we say start, it starts this thread by going to the first line of this run method, and it actually executes this line and then the second and the third. And let's just say I add another system.out.println here, and let's say I run this now. What happens is it says starting thread and then prints the 1 and then the 1, 2 and 3. So before it actually executed this line right here got executed. So these two are actually happening simultaneously, but since they're both using system.out, it's actually getting queued up like I talked about. So let's just go ahead and um, print a couple more things here. So this time, let me just clear this. And this time what happens is the 1 gets printed, then the 2, then the 3, and then 1, 2, 3. So because these are getting executed before the ones in the thread are always being queued up. And let's just try adding another line here which says thread ongoing, and let's just compile this again. So this time what happens is it says starting thread, then it says thread ongoing, and it prints out these 1, 2, 3 before it prints out these 1, 2, 3. So that's because these are getting queued up before these 3 right here, and these are getting executed before the ones here. So another thing that we can do is we can put a thread to sleep, and we'll have to put this in a try catch block, because putting a thread to sleep actually could trigger an interrupted exception. Let's say E, and I'm not really going to do anything here, and let's just put the thread to sleep for this takes one integer, and that's the number of milliseconds you want to put this to sleep for. So let's just say we put this to sleep for 10 seconds, and let's just go ahead and run this. So this time what happens is it says starting thread ongoing, and then it prints out these 1 2, then it prints out this 1, and waits for 10 milliseconds. And the reason the output in this case and the output in this case is different is because it could actually differ as to whether this system.out.println is queued up before the one right here. So that can actually vary, but one thing is for sure, that if there's any printing left in our main method, that'll happen right after this one has been printed, because we are putting this to sleep for 10 milliseconds. So that gives the other thread a chance to print or use that system.out resource. So that's one thing. And another thing that we need to look at is, when does a thread stop? So a thread basically stops in three cases. One is when this run method ends. The second is when the program itself terminates. And the third one is when we call the stop method. So let's just say I uh, use the stop method right here. So this time this 3 right here will not get printed at all. So let's just take a look at that. I'm just getting a couple of warnings which I'll ignore for now. And this time, as you can see, it says starting thread, then thread ongoing, and the one right here. Then the 1 2 3 from the main, because I have 10 millisecond sleep here. Then it prints the 2, and this 3 right here never gets printed because I've got the stop method here. So this is how we create a thread, and we'll actually do graphics after we're done with this thread program. So when we do graphics, we're going to be using threads, and I'll show you a very interesting use of this. But before that, I want to show you something else. Let me just get rid of this. So what we can use threads for is we can use them to create a delay. So let's say I create a thread, and as I told you, I can get the current thread by using the current thread method of the thread class. So once I do that, I can do let's say I do a system.out.println here, and let me just print count to 10, and then let me just put this to sleep for 10,000 milliseconds. So that's 10 seconds, and then let's just print out 0, and let me just compile this program. Alright, so it says the interrupted exception is unreported. So let's just go ahead and report it. Throws interrupted exception. The interrupted exception is only required with the sleep method, because that's when the thread can be interrupted, when it's sleeping. So let's compile this now, and let's run this, and I'm actually going to count to 0 as soon as I see count to 10. Sorry, I'm actually going to count to 10 when I see the message count to 10. So let's go ahead with this. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So my counting wasn't very accurate, but it basically printed the 0 after 10 seconds. So that's what I wanted to show you. and I think that kind of covers everything that you need to know the basics about threads, and we'll use a thread when we do the graphics program, and that's going to be a really interesting program, so stay tuned for that.